Let's kick it off. So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining today. I'm super excited to be talking to you today versus writing, as we usually do on the Medium platform. I wanted this talk to be interactive and for you to weigh in and share your wisdom. So, I also wanted to set up something called Mentimeter. You can basically point your phone to the screen. The QR will repeat in future slides, but point to that. You can join the conversation, and then I can ask you questions and get your wisdom. Sorry, I'll let you point at it. There's also a link in the chat. Cool. I hope you're able to do that. So let's start. Sorry. Switching. So today we're going to talk about, I'm going to give a brief intro to explain who am I and why should I be talking about such a topic. I'm going to share the premise of the talk, share a few stories, and share the hardest thing. And I'm trying to keep about 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. Feel free to shoot questions in the chat. I'll try to ignore them until the end. Okay, let's go. So I have been managing and leading people for 20 years. I started my career in the Israeli Defense Force, IDF, and spent the last 10 years at Google leading a large group of engineers, about 100 people. I turned into a parent 8.5 years ago. And, since I had so much experience leading and managing people, when I became a parent, I started noticing more and more, commonalities between parenting and management. And that's kind of like what I'm going to talk about today. And I think a lot of people ignore it, or maybe they feel uncomfortable. I'm going to give you my theory to that. So it was 2014. My husband and I just returned from our honeymoon, and I just started my job at Google. We were working on baby number one, and one big day it finally happened. The test stick showed the longed for plus sign. I'm pregnant. The moment of happiness was short-lived, however, because very soon after I realized that I'm no longer the focal point for anything or anyone. It's no longer about me, it's about the baby. I live, I rest, I breathe, I eat, I drink, and exercise, all for the purpose of increasing the future potential of my not yet even born newborn. And that was the first time when I realized the parallel between my professional life and my personal life. It's not about me. And this is a photo from the second delivery. This is me in construction. I approved this photo because I wanted the documentation. But basically, both in parenting and management, it's not about you. It's about your dependent. And your job is to ensure their success in the context of the company or the context of the family. And that is the first thing that is actually shared between them. The rest of the areas that people consider different, I would claim, can easily be fixed or can fit into place once you map the organizational goals or company goals, as we're used to in the professional setting, to the family and parental goals. So in our professional life, we're used to metrics, KPIs being revenue or usage or cost savings and stuff like that. The equivalent for us is, what do you wish for your family or for your kids? Do you want your kid to become an athlete? That's how you'll be measuring your progress and success. Do you want them to be just happy and confident? That is how you measure their success. But once you make that mapping, everything falls into place. And now you have such a larger toolbox from both parenting options and work options to basically mix and match and use in both sides. And I think a lot of people just feel like it's weird to treat your employees as you treat your kids, or to treat your kids as you treat your employees. And in my opinion, they leave money on the table. They leave opportunity to be able to apply more strategies. Okay, so next story is happened on a plane. We were on a plane. I was with my son, 2-year-old back then, and my husband, and we were going to embark on an 11-hour flight. It was a red eye because it was such a long flight. We wanted to sleep and we wanted the baby to sleep. And the flight was already 1.5 hours delayed. My son was sick, and he was coughing, and I'm holding him. He starts coughing uncontrollably, and eventually he throws up right here. And then it goes down right here, down between the space between my shirt and my skin. And I want to jump to the Mentimeter and hear, how would you feel if this happened to you? If you haven't connected yet, there's the QR code here. You can connect and vote. I have the first person who would parachute off the plane. I'm hoping a few more can vote. If you haven't connected yet, point to the screen to the QR and you can join the conversation. Oh, I see there are 6 people. That's nice. We have a screamer and a parachuter. And a bathroomer. Okay, I'll jump back to the presentation. So I was unprepared for this, as anyone could be prepared for such a thing. My first thought was, why would he do such a thing to me? How could he? And as I processed the state of shock that I'm in, my husband takes the baby over and, unlike me, offers words of support and comfort. Poor baby, you must be suffering so much. And realizing the different ways in which each one of us parsed the reaction to the situation, I concluded that first, my empathy levels could be further developed. And secondly, that I have mistaken my baby to be in control of his actions. And I judged him for not thinking through that. And I'm curious, has this ever happened to you? What might be work equivalent for this? Which one of the options do you think mapped to the work experience? Okay. All great options. Thank you for your input. So for me, I thought about it as first, empathy. Sorry. So for me, reflecting back, I realized I made the same mistake in my work life. I hired a manager. I knew that manager had zero 0 years of managerial experience. I appointed him on over half of my team. And then I sat back and I expected him to be my clone. And to my utter surprise, he wasn't, right? Because he had zero experience. So I think we often do that at work. We forget to normalize to the state, the career of the person, and we expect, interns maybe to do more than they can, or junior employees to act as senior, etc. So I'm sure this happened to you, either you as an employee or you as a manager. Yeah. So let's talk about mornings. First of all, there's a really cute book called All Joy and No Fun. I read it as I was preparing to become a parent. And this is one of the quotes there. Apparently, childcare ranked number 16 in pleasurability, and even housework was higher ranked than that. So, after several years of alternating responsibilities over morning and night routines, my husband and I landed on splitting by shifts. I took over the morning shift, which included getting the kids ready and then dropping them at school. And my husband took over the night shift, which meant bedtime, story time, second and third dinner, and then obviously all the excuses they have for not going to sleep. And after almost 2 years of owning the morning routine, I still found myself shouting orders at my younglings as I dispatched them through the morning chores. And even though the activities were simple, like eat breakfast, unsurprising considering the goal, like get dressed, and most importantly, consistent over the course of 2 years, I have seen little to no learnings on their end, nor improvement in efficiencies. And let's quickly jump into the Mentimeter and see what kind of work has this ever happened to you? Have you seen this happening when there was a repeated routine but no learnings? And again, if you haven't joined the Mentimeter, you can still do that using the QR code. I appreciate that you don't take the humorous approach of saying, no, kids are wonderful. Okay, thank you for your input. So one day I called my sister. Honestly, I felt like I'm failing, right? So I called my sister and I'm like, I don't know what to do. It's been 2 years and I still fail to get them ready in the morning. And she suggested maybe I should use a checklist, a morning checklist. And I was like, of course, that is genius and so simple. I know from my management and leadership experience that employees do so much better when they have visibility of what they need to do and when they have a sense of progression. So I was like, okay, I went online. I found a checklist that was age appropriate. I modified it to my liking using MS Paint because that is my favorite design tool. And I printed it out and I waited for the morning to try that. And the first attempt was an epic fail, actually. So I thought they're going to go through the things and then eventually sit down and check everything that they finished. they reasonably so tried to, first of all, they went and searched for a pencil. Then they wanted to check each and every one as they did it. And they also complained that the order was wrong. You can see here that they asked them to put a backpack on before they put the coat. So we had a few iterations. This is an example from the summer, where you can apply sunscreen. There's no masks needed. We iterated a little bit over that, and eventually over time they got better. It's not perfect yet, but it's definitely better. And I was curious, what are the work-related analogies here that you can think about? I think this is free form, so think about what are the learnings that you can apply at work from that, or what are the learnings that I applied from work towards the kids. Roadmap, it's a good option. Expectation settings, definitely. Does anyone else want to share? Whoa. Iterative development, prototyping, and failing, and design. Yeah, all of these are really, really good ones. There's another one. What came in? Workflows. Yeah. So when I thought about this, reflecting back, everything that you said is correct. I thought about task visibility and a sense of progress. I thought about persistence and adjustment. Someone mentioned iterations, right? We learned that from Scrum and Agile. Try something, try it a few times, run a retro, augment, try again. And I think maybe the thing that I want to focus on here is visual communication. We are so used at our professional life to talk verbally and to write over text and chat, in emails and chat. We underuse the visual communication tool. And some people are auditory learners, some people are visual learners. So I learned over time to actually offer all options, because different people grasp and parse and internalize data in different ways. And I wanted to make sure that I maximize my opportunities. So yeah. And let's pause for a second and think another thing that is another very key thing that is shared between parenting and management is both of them are thankless jobs. And there are rare moments of appreciation. It's very rare for an employee to tell you how amazing you are. It's extremely rare for your child to say that you're the best parent ever. And that it's grounded by something, right? They don't always have a base of comparison. And I think to do a good job here, you need to understand, you need to draw happiness and fulfillment from helping people succeed, seeing people grow. And you can also use what I would call proxy metrics, right? Like if someone is on your team for a long time, you're probably doing something right, because otherwise they could have left. If your child is running to you with sparky eyes, you're probably doing something right? So like there are ways to mitigate that, but be ready to not get any thank you ever, and you need to still sustain that. So that's something you should be ready for. Okay, the next story, and I think this is almost the last one. Many years ago, as I was getting ready to transform into a parent, I read an intriguing article. It was titled, "How I Made Sure All My 12 Kids Could Pay for College Themselves." And I found a lot of value in the article. The author, the father, describes how they ran their family, and there are several matches with common ways we run teams. Here are a few. This is my favorite quote. "A 3-year-old does not clean toilets very well, but by the time he is 4, it's a reasonably good job." And I want to pause here and ask, what kind of work activities does this bring to mind? And I gave you some options to make things easier for you. And if you are watching and want to join the Mentimeter, there's menti.com, there's a link here. Okay, all of these are great. Yeah, I mean, personally, I thought about internship, training, delegation, and mentorship, right? These are the things. We usually, we are used to junior employees at work. We are used to training them. We're used to helping them grow. But we don't think about that at home so much. And, there are a lot of parents. Sorry, here are my kids emptying the potty, not a giant chore. And yes, there are like some droppings around, and my son trying to unclog the bathroom that he clogged. This is where they did the laundry when they were very young, obviously with parental guidance. But the point is, a lot of parents actually kind of assume that their kid will, don't need to do anything or can't do anything. And then, they wake up when the kid is like 10, 12, 15, and they're like, why am I serving you? Right? And it's bad for the parent because the parent can't scale and is more stressed out and cannot be a great parent for the kid. And it's bad for the kid because they cannot learn they don't feel empowered and they don't learn anything. Right? So I think there's something to be learned here. And the last story that I'll share with you is for several years. Oh, sorry. So this is another quote from the same article. If children would come home and say that the teacher was not fair, our response was, you need to go and find a way to get along. And in my experience, I had a really troublesome relationship with one of my peers. We would lash out on each other. I would cry. She called me a liar. It was really bad. We had a shared manager, and one day I went to the shared manager and I told him, look, I don't know how much more of this I can sustain. This is not the kind of experience I want at work. Please help us. And he said, I don't know how. And then short after, we had a new manager come in and replace him. And when I reached out to her, she basically said, look, Sivan, you're senior enough. My approach is to send you and the other peer to go and figure this out. You need to really, really try. If you really try and you actually can't make it work, then I will coach you and I will coach your peer based on what I know about each other on how to resolve the conflict between you. But basically, that experience of like go to mommy to resolve a problem, I can't let it happen. And we actually took another stab at like trying to, not at each other, at trying to fix the situation. And we were able to fix the situation with this manager's prodding. And we, even when she left to another job, we still stayed in touch and still helped each other. And I think that is another lesson. There's a new age in parenting that basically says when the siblings are arguing or fighting, you don't intervene because that is the way they will learn how to do conflict resolution. If we keep coming and doing things for them, they will never develop the skills that they need in order to be successful. So for me, that was about conflict resolution and effective collaboration and the importance of that. And now if I think about, just as we come to a close, when I think about the hardest thing about being a parent and the hardest thing about being a manager, it's the fact that we tend to assume our job or our role to be our identity. And then if we do a good job, and a good job in my mind is your dependents become independent, right? Like your kids will get better than you, your employees will not need you anymore. And in that situation, people kind of have an identity crisis because they spend so many years being the parent, being the manager, and now the person who needed them doesn't need them anymore. So my advice here is, reframe. Remember that their success is your success. And I told my son, any single thing you do better than me, praise to you, right? That just means that I did a great job. So that's my advice here. And to leave you with two other advices. Remember, it's not about you, it's about them. And remember that a happy parent means happy kid. So you might have heard happy wife, happy life. I switched that to be happy parent, happy kid. We parents tend to kind of like give up on ourselves and on our needs in favor of the kids for many years when they're young. And by the time, and that usually means that we're frustrated, tired, exhausted, and we don't take time to refill our energy tanks. And if you do that, you'll find out that you have more patience and more love for your kid. So that is my advice here. And now I'm going to thank you. I want to switch for the last time to the Mentimeter to collect your takeaways and reflection. And I'm going to open, the chat is open, so feel free to hit me with questions after you write your reflection, obviously. Yes, that is true. Kids are not the enemy. Getting the kids is winning. Yep, I think we can definitely leverage work experience on our personal life and parental experience on our work life. And that is what I hope you get out of this talk with. Okay, well, people are typing their reflections on Menti. You are also welcome to ask questions live or over chat. I haven't quite figured out how I enable the live. I think if you ask to join, I can bring you into the video. Or maybe I need to open the Q&A. Announce Q&A. Confirm and notify. I'm very scared to say your name. View. This was great. Thank you, Sivan. I'm curious what most surprised you about managing folks. Were there aspects you didn't even know or prepare to? Hi, you wanna, let's see. I have an X button, and when I click on the oh, hi, do you wanna?
Sorry. I was just gonna say my name is Bo. I thought I could just go off mute real quick.
Thank you. Thank you for helping, and thank you for asking. So,
Of course.
maybe the things that come to my mind is one of the I shared this story recently in one of my Medium posts, but I was surprised. I was surprised to learn that there are people who don't want to get better or progress in their career. I kind of took that for granted that everyone wants to be a better version of themselves and progress. And the first time I met someone who didn't want to. That was a surprise to me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for asking a question. Are there any more questions, live or on chat or on Q&A? So many tools. I'll read the reflections. As a manager, I never thought about training my future kids the way I train my junior employees. Makes me more optimistic about the ability to raise kids. Yeah, I think in both areas, like this is the way you scale. The better, the more self-sufficient your kids are and your employees are, the more you can take on and the more you can sustain. So I think it's really a sustainability and scalability question. That being said, I still work with my 8-year-old on getting his plate off the table, even though he's fully capable. I did find that incentives and rewards work a little bit better when, if they want to watch the iPad and they say, if you do this, you can watch the iPad. That works better. But I still try to instill the values of, hey, we have to take care of the house and the place that we live in. Rebecca wrote, I found myself yelling at my toddler. I have never yelled at a client and I've gotten some pretty crazy requests. Yeah. That's an interesting question, right? Like, why do we treat our kids, I guess, worse in this case than we treat our clients and employees? And is there a way to improve that? Regarding empathy, I can say I definitely feel like I developed my empathy levels gotten better after having kids. I remember when I was pregnant, one of my peers said something like, "Oh, this will humanize you," and I was like, I was pretty sure that I was a human before, but I guess there's something here for me to learn. Any other questions, comments, feedback, anything really you want to share with me? I'd love to hear you. Ooh, we have wait. From Sue Dockstader, how about the performance review from your kids? For the manager, you mean? For the parent? So I used to jokingly tell the kids, this goes on your performance review. But that was just a joke, mostly during perf season at Google, which is very intense. Um, I do think, I think a lot about like, how can my kids give me feedback in a way that can help me improve? There's a big challenge there because they don't know any better, right? They haven't seen any other parent. A recent experience was we went for a play date with my son and we played with a child that is a single child to older parents. And when we came out of it, my son said that his parents are overprotecting him. And I thought, it's not quite a praise to us, but it's kind of like an implied praise, right? Like he noticed that this kid is more limited in what he can do. And I guess he was happy that he's not there. So maybe the answer is you can collect proxy metrics for how you perform as a parent. From Joseph, roughly what age would you say kids are acting as L3? Oof, it's a hard question. L3 is a level, an entry level position for a developer at Google and in other companies. I don't know, maybe 8, maybe 10. It's a little bit hard. We really have to like map the ladders to do that. Thank you for asking, Joseph. Okay, I'll bring this to a close. I would love if you want to check out my session, my stories on Medium. It's chiban@medium.com. There's a banner. If you click it, I did a very bad job, but if you click it, you get to my to the set of stories, and I would love to engage with you again. Thank you very much for coming and listening. Bye bye.